Welcome back, everyone. It's nice to have you here, and I'm sorry about Monday. I was just too tired. I hadn't slept, so I couldn't meditate. And I think this year, one of the things I'm going to try to be better at is taking care of myself, like with my sleep. I have a problem in that I'm way too good at managing to look normal when I have too little sleep. I can actually function with extreme little sleep, and that's not a good thing to do too long. But something that I find much more interesting is practice, and I'm happy that you're here so we can discuss practice, because lately I've been, as you know, I've been going through a lot of changes with work and trying to figure out, okay, is there something I can change? And I spoke to someone who was a business coach for how you, if you want to work with YouTube, what you need to do. And the one thing she said was that you need to have something that you're actually helping people with. And I'm kind of like, no, I don't want to help people. I mean, okay, wait, let me rephrase that. I don't want to help people with something specific. I want to help people see how they can help themselves with everything through learning to understand what I call distortion or friction towards things around us. So there's a part of me that has friction towards, hey, Mats, nice to see you, towards being too specific in helping people getting through difficult situations, because the whole thing is that I don't consider that to be the main thing. You can get through, hey, Nicole, nice to see you. I'd feel much better. We can get through a difficult situation, but you're still going to have the same issue and you're going to have problems again. So I'd much rather help people fix the underlying problem. The problem with that is that takes a lot of time to understand and to work with, and to figure out what to actually do with it. And I have such a hard time describing simply what does it mean when I say, okay, just feel good, just enjoy. What do I mean by that? And it's a difficult thing to explain to people. So what I've been trying to do is to make it more practical, to make it more relatable and not so diffuse and vague. And the problem I run into when I do that is that I really, really don't want to go into any kind of law of attraction or manifest your dream life or anything like that, even though what we're talking about here works really well for that. And let me explain. So law of attraction basically says just visualize your dream life, and then that will manifest itself in your life. And you don't have to do anything. It will just kind of come to you, and then you'll be happy. What I say is that it doesn't matter if you get your dream life, you're still going to be unhappy, because as soon as you get it, there's going to be the next thing you want. So that in and of itself isn't really a solution. But that doesn't mean that life is much easier when we have the things we want and the things we need in our life, because we still need money to survive, and we don't need, but it's nice to have a partner, it's nice to have a job that we enjoy going to, and it's nice to have things around you that make life enjoyable. So instead of focusing on the idea that, oh, it's all about getting all this stuff, and if I get all this stuff, I can be happy, what I try to show people is that there is a natural flow, a natural way of being that would be very similar to what people call the flow state. When you just exist, you just do things. There's no friction. It feels completely effortless to do things. When you move around and you're trying to do something, if you learn how to observe what you're feeling inside, you'll see that there's resistance all the time. Oh, I'm doing this, and there's like struggle to get there. And then I want to do that, but there's all the fear, the anxiety, the worry, like who would I be? What would people say about me? Or imagine if I got too rich, then I could lose the money, or people might not love me for who I am. Or what if I got that girl, or that man, then they might cheat on me because they're too good looking, or like all this friction that comes in and makes it very difficult for us to take action. And the friction, the distortion, happens both in the way we experience the world, how we see things around us, because quite literally, when you experience the world without friction, without distortion, non-centricness, it is as if though someone just like gave you a pair of glasses, like, oh my goodness, wow, what? The difference is similar to if you've ever looked underneath the water without goggles, and you go and you look like that, and it hurts the eyes. It's painful to look, and you can barely see. You can make out shapes. It's kind of like a bit like if I take off my glasses and do this now, I can see things. Actually, I see pretty good without my glasses, but the way they would be underneath the water would be that everything would just be big shapes moving around. You can see colors, but it hurts the eyes and it's difficult to look. And then you put on the goggles and go like, oh my goodness, it's gorgeous down here. Look at all these things around. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. Even if you saw a shark coming at you, like, well, that's a scary shark. I should get out of the way. But my goodness, that's a beautiful creature. Look at it move. It's so gracious. It's incredible. That is, without exaggerating, that is how big the difference is when you view the world as normal and through the lens of, without the lens of normal and just non-centricness. TVB, when finding a business coach, don't go against your own vision. So just find a coach who clicks with you and understands you. Don't lose yourself, otherwise you lose what makes you special. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I've had such a hard time with that, because I don't want to go into something just to fit into something. So, well, she said, just like, you need to find what it is you help with. And she said, just imagine a person you helped, and like they really love what you did and what you did for them. Like, what was that kind of? And many times when I help people and they feel probably that they got the most from our coaching calls, it's not the calls I always think. Because for me, it's when they gain understanding of something. But for most people, it's when they release something and something else happens. So imagine that, hey, Stephen, imagine that life is actually effortless. That life is easy. It is nice to be. You just kind of, instead of feeling like you're in this raft going down a river and you're going and it's scary and bumpy, it's just smooth sailing. You just get carried along with life. And it doesn't matter so much what happens. You can move over there and move over there, but there's not the drama, not the like, oh, I need to get over there, otherwise, oh my goodness, life is going to be over. You just do things, and it's enjoyable. It's like looking underneath the water with the goggles. You can all of a sudden see things as they truly are. So by focusing not just on the really high-level stuff and like, okay, how does this feel, and then learn to let go of that, we can actually use actual situations or problems and work with those. So what that would be the equivalent of seeing when I want to do something, because this would be and I do this myself. It's just that I don't like talking about it because I'm so, I've always been afraid that if I do, people will make it into something it's not, or people will take it and think, oh, this is important because this is what I need. And I say, no, that's not really important. It's not really important that you get that stuff, or that you're able to go approach the woman you love. Or, well, actually, that is, of course, important. That's the thing, what I'm trying to say. Ultimately, you're not going to get fulfillment from those things, but they are important. And if you can see how the distortions we have on the biggest, no, what do I call it, the coarsest level, that is like how we get things and how we interact with the world, like the big things. When I think about picking up the phone and calling someone, and I might have anxiety, like that thing there, that is the first thing that we can look at. It's very simple, it's very down to earth, and we can look at that and we can work with how do I actually have a conversation with someone without feeling anxiety. I have nothing against that. And there might be a conversation that you're having because you want to get something from the other person, or you want to go somewhere, or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter, but we can work with and look at the things that we find difficult to begin with, because that's the first step. And then once you start seeing that, because when you look at, and I was actually, this was something I've done after when I've been thinking about this. When I was looking at it, I came up with this thing that I thought was really cool, and I'll read it to you to see. So when you feel a distortion or a feeling, you can say, the first question is this feeling me, or is it just friction? The answer here is that everything is just friction. But it doesn't matter, because as long as, it doesn't matter if you believe that, you have to see it kind of. So is this feeling me, or is it just distortion? Because the sense of self is in the feelings. So say you feel fear or worry about, how should we call? You're going to call and, you have a job interview. So you're going to a job interview and you feel anxiety about this. So is that feeling you, or is it just friction? And just asking that, looking in and seeing like, is this me? Is this who I am? Am I anxiety? Or is it just a friction I have between this point I'm at right now and the call I'm going to make? Is it just friction? And no matter what your response is, if you go to the next question, it would be, if it's just friction, why am I scared of it? And if it's me, why am I scared of it? Because we have these uncomfortable sensations in our body and we're so controlled by it. This is basically our, what would you call that? The conditioning that we had throughout our lives, through society, through our parents, through upbringing, and like people around us. Just in general, this is why we have these things that keep us in check, because we cannot go outside of that, because then we get an uncomfortable feeling like, oh, I couldn't go and apply for this thing over there because I'm not worthy or good enough. Well, he or she can because they come from a good family, they have all these things, but I couldn't. So by looking at the friction or the distortion, the feeling, and seeing like, hey, is this me? Am I this feeling? Or is it just a distortion towards what's happening? And if it is me, why am I afraid of it? Because it's me. But if it's just distortion, why am I afraid of this distortion? Because it's just distortion. In other words, we come to the same point. It's just a feeling. It's just a sensation. And then the interesting part comes. How do I behave when I believe this friction is me? And what does my movement feel like? So what I'm trying to get at there is, say I'm going to make that call. I hope you follow me with this. Tell me if it's too. I'm just trying to structure a new way of approaching this that is more relatable, and I would love to hear what you think about it. So how do I behave when I believe this friction is me, and what does my movement feel like? What I meant with movement is that if I'm going to make a phone call for a job interview and I feel a lot of friction, I feel a lot of anxiety, how does that change me, my behavior, my what do you call it, idiosyncrasies, the way that I act and behave, the way I'm just light and loose and normal and fun, but now all of a sudden I feel anxious. How does that change my behavior? Now I'm going to be very stiff. I'm going to be how I believe I'm supposed to be, because I feel this distortion. So noticing what this distortion is doing to us opens up the Pandora's box, because now all of a sudden you see, oh, wait a minute, this is not me. I am doing this because I believe this person over here is better than me. They're more worth than me. They have something I want, so I need to treat them differently. I don't treat them like a normal person. All of a sudden creating this distance. And by seeing how this distortion, this feeling changes my relationship with this person, we see that now we're no longer seeing them clearly. Now we're seeing them through a filter of someone different from me. And then the fourth question would be, what would my life be like if I let go of this distortion or this friction? And where would my flow take me? Because how would it be with that conversation if you didn't have this distortion, this anxiety, if you would just be you? How would that change how you interacted with this person? And then the flow part is, this is the part that's a bit difficult to explain, but when you have no distortion and you're non-centric, it really feels like you're not doing things. You're just flowing along, and life is so easy. Things come up and it's just choices. I just do things. It's not what's going to happen if it's wrong. Like, no, you just do the best to the ability that you have, with the mind that you have and the experiences you have and the knowledge that you've gained throughout your life, and you make the best choice. And oh, that was not the best choice apparently, because it didn't turn out the way I wanted to. Well, then I make another choice and another, instead of, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Because if I say the wrong thing to this conversation, it's going to be terrible, and I'm going to, and you call and you're so nervous. So by making it clearer for people to see that the distortion, the friction, is where we feel the sense of self. And you don't have to accept this, because just believing it doesn't really change anything. And question yourself, if this is just distortion, why am I afraid of it? Because this anxiety makes us afraid. And if that anxiety is you, then why are you afraid of it? It's just you. It's just a feeling in your body. It doesn't matter if it's you or not. Like it's just an uncomfortable sensation in your body. Why are we so afraid of it? And then going on and asking, how does this change my way of interacting with the world? Am I staying with this person because I feel so much fear of being alone? Oh, I have to stay with them. And you can see that this fear of being alone is making me stay with someone I don't like. What would I do if I didn't have the fear of being alone? Would I settle for this, or would I choose something else? Would I maybe not even talk to this person because I don't want that job anyway? I'm just choosing it because it's a highly respectable job. So by doing this, we start breaking down the structure of how we interact with society around us. things that are supposed to happen a certain way become maybe not sure. Is this really true? Is it really how I have to interact with the world around me? So this is just the first time I try to explain this to someone else, because I've been sitting with this myself today. And when I thought about it like that, I'm like, wow, this really this is basically, in a way, what happens in my mind when I feel distortion. I don't think about it exactly like this, but I do feel the distortion. I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And I say, and I look at it, I know that the feeling in me is in that distortion. For me, this is something I truly believe. I mean, I know, like, the sense of me is in this distortion, because I know when the distortion disappears, the sense of me disappears. And then questioning, how does this change how I interact with this person, the situation, this whatever it is also really useful, because then you start saying, like, wait a minute, this thing that I think is good for me is actually ruining my life. It's controlling me. I am being controlled. I am not being me. I am doing these things because of this weird sensation in my body that I call me, or that I call anxiety. I call it friction, distortion. It doesn't really matter. Why? And how would my life be different if I wasn't controlled by that, if that was just a sensation in the body? What would change? And then you quite clearly see that, oh, wait a minute, my life would actually be a lot better if I wasn't being controlled by this distortion the whole time, this feeling of anxiety, whatever it is. I could just be who I am. I would love to hear if this makes sense to you when I explain it like this. Nicole, I agree with you, JVB. I find you have to change based on your situation. To get somewhere you want, you have to adapt and change to the environment. Oh, I'm not saying you cannot change and adapt to the environment. See, this is the thing that I'm worried people will confuse, because now all of a sudden you're talking about this thing over there and that you cannot change. What I'm talking about, how you're relating to that thing. So I can say that, oh, actually, you know what? I used to have a lot of distortion towards this person over here, and therefore I wouldn't be friends with them. But now I need to talk to them because they're in my class, or they're my colleagues, so I need to be able to talk to them. If I let go of the distortion, how would that change how I interact with them? If I would just see them as what they've done, and I can see, like, oh, I don't get triggered by them, all of the things that, like, it's so irritating, I can just see, oh, they're just doing things that I don't agree with. How am I going to react now? Well, if they're doing things that's intentionally mean towards me, well, then I would move away from there. Or I would just kind of brush it aside, or I would respond in some way, but I wouldn't respond from anger, from fear, from anxiety. So it's not about, but I could still change me, meaning I could change how I interact with that person, but I would do that without coming from anxiety and fear. This reminds me of Byron Katie. Who would I be if I didn't believe this thought? What happens when I believe this thought? It's not really thoughts. Byron Katie, why does that ring a bell? I recognize that name. Is it conversation? No, that's Neely Donald Walsh. The word. Oh, yes, I recognize this. She has some. What happened? Okay, so let's take that. Who would I be if I didn't believe this thought? What happens when I believe this thought? So if the thought would be the equivalent of, what did I call it? Movement. No, it would be the equivalent of friction. So she talks about the shape, meaning that, I'm assuming, is it true? Is what true? Who would I be if I didn't believe this thought? What happens when I believe? Am I sure what is true? Or what do you mean? Let's say if the thought is the equivalent of, well, it's the thing that comes before the friction, or before the feeling, because a thought has no friction, it has no feeling, it has no absolute relationship to the world around you. It's just a thought. So, meaning that's why I don't like talking about thoughts, because they're ephemeral. They have no substance other than the substance you give them. So, I guess I'm trying to ask her. Oh, okay, sorry. I guess maybe she asks, is this true? So that would probably be the feeling behind the thought she's trying to reach by saying true, then, I'm assuming. Anyway, the point is that if we focus on our thoughts, it doesn't really matter if you change your thoughts, because it's the feeling behind your thoughts. You can kind of talk around it. So say someone behaves poorly to you, and then you say, oh, they're doing this because they had a poor upbringing. And then all of a sudden you release the distortion, because now, like, sorry, they had their wife just left them or something, or their husband just cheated on them, or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't have to be angry with this person because they're going through something very difficult. Then you've dropped the distortion. You can still think, oh, they said this mean thing to me, but now you have a different understanding, so you kind of allowed yourself to let go of it. What I'm trying to help you do is to not need the excuse for them to let go of it, because I'm saying the distortion is the problem. It's not the thought. The problem is the feeling that you have towards them, the separation that you cannot see them clearly. Because again, if you look at, is this distortion me, or is it just friction? When you can see that it's just friction, or no matter what it is, and if you can see that, why am I afraid of this? Because it's just a friction, it's just anxiety, it's just me. Why are you afraid of it? That will take away the resistance towards it. And then after that, if you look at how does this change how I interact with the people around me, or the situation around me, or myself. Maybe I think, oh, I'm fat, and so I don't like myself. That is a feeling I have, that I'm pushing towards myself. So I have a resistance, I have a distance between me and what I consider to be myself, and I'm pushing away from that. And by looking at that and seeing how it affects your life, it will be easier for you to let go of this distortion. What I would want to say is just stop doing it, because it's dumb. It's silly. Like, why do you keep on hitting yourself? Like, stop hitting yourself. You're just hurting yourself. You don't need to do this. Just let go of it and just enjoy life. But that's very difficult to do for people, because we believe this sensation to be me. We believe the anxiety is real. We believe this feeling of aversion towards this thing is real, and we believe that I am in there because this is important to me. When you can start seeing how this is affecting your life and how it's affecting it in a bad way, then it'll be easier to say, oh, wait a minute, this is a silly thing to do. I'm just going to drop this. But I cannot tell you to do that, even though I wish I could. And I cannot even tell myself to do that, because I need to look at it. And for me, what usually happens is I hurt enough from feeling it, that eventually I go, well, this is kind of silly, and I just drop the friction. And then all of a sudden the choice is simple. So an example would be, I had someone who was calling me, and they needed help with, I don't think it was the name of their company, it was the description of what their company did, or something like that. She was starting a company on communication in difficult situations. I can't remember what it was. There was a special technique. It wasn't non-violent communication, it was something else. And she had so much distortion, so much friction, so much pressure against this idea that, oh, I cannot lock myself into this, because if I say this, then they might misunderstand it and think it's this. And if I say this, they might think this. And she had all this friction towards that. So by helping her see that, hey, wait a minute, how is this affecting my ability to choose the right thing? I'm feeling all this friction here. It's not making me see what's actually the best choice, because I'm choosing based on fear and anxiety. And how would I choose if I didn't feel this distortion here, this friction? Would it be easier for me to make this choice? Would I make a better choice? That's basically what I do with people. I help them look at this, and once they overcome that, then they no longer have that resistance. The path, I called it, when I was writing, I was calling it path clearance. So it's not manifestation or anything like that. We're clearing the path, meaning we're clearing the distortion we have towards wherever we want to go. And then it might be that you say, hey, wait a minute, I never wanted this anyway. I just thought I did. I actually wanted to do this. But you've taken away the thing that's holding you back from doing what you believe in, what you want to do. Because you look at the friction, the distortion, and you can see, I'm not being who I want to be because of my conditioning, my upbringing, my fears, my anxiety. And it gives you a way to do that a bit more tangible than how I normally talk about it. Because again, I am afraid that people will take it and do exactly what Stephen didn't say, like, oh, I'm not, you have to change. I'm not, it has nothing to do with how you change. It only has to do with how you relate to things. It has nothing to do with your thoughts. It only has to do with how you relate to your thoughts. I recently found a book by Thich Nhat Hanh called The Art of Living. I believe it talks about things like this a lot. I haven't read many of... I read some of his books. Actually, most of his books are not written by him. They're ghost writers, like there's monks at his center, but they use his talks and then write. They're basically like AI. They would take his talks and write books from his talks. Beautiful books. Hey, Emily, nice to have you here. So, again, I'm asking what I just said now about this, trying to get it to be some kind of process that people can use that's a bit clearer, rather than just look at your distortions and let go of them, because that's what all of this leads to. And I could say that instead, but that's so untangible and it's so difficult to work with. But giving some people something a bit more structured to work with, I think would help. And this is actually the first time I've shared this, so I'm not really fluent in exactly how I want to get it across, and I will absolutely change the wording and rethink it. But the main idea is that getting people to look at what they're feeling, how they're having friction towards the world, and seeing how who you are is hindered by that, meaning who you want to be, just how you are as a person. It's the difference between going into a conversation and feeling fear and worry about not being accepted, to going into a conversation having no fear of not being accepted because you are who you are and you just say what you believe in. You wouldn't be obnoxious or just like, oh, I'm the coolest person in the world. There's just not, because there's no self that needs to be validated by other people. So it's not that you would be this rude person who goes out and just like acts like an idiot. No, you would just be you, whoever you are, with all the idiosyncrasies and like behaviors and ideas that you've had before. But many of those things will change when you see that, oh, I'm actually being controlled by this. So I am very curious if this makes sense or if it just complicates things. Because it's been one of the things that when I have coaching calls and I talk to people, they very often come with, I want to have, hey Vim, nice to have you here. They very often want to have, oh, I want to work with this. This is what I want to do. And I kind of go like, yeah, but I don't really want to help you with that. Even though I do want to help them I want to help them feel good. I want to help them be happy. I don't want to help them to do that, but I think it's a useful step along the way to get there. But also teach people that you can never really get happy by getting those things. But there's still friction and distortion so that you could work with to begin. And then you say, oh, wait a minute, I got rid of this distortion. And all of a sudden I can do what I want to do. And I can get that job that I thought I wasn't worthy of. Or I can be with that person who I thought I could never get. And then when you see that, and it's like, okay, well, what other things do I have? Oh, look at this. I have a distortion towards these ideas and ideologies. Why? Why do I feel so much anger towards them? Well, who would I be if I didn't feel that anger towards them? What would happen if I didn't have that much friction and distortion towards this other person? How would that change? How is that changing my behavior towards them? And you say, oh, I'm not who I want to be. I'm actually mean, cruel, and evil-spirited towards them because I have this feeling here. And then after that, when you see how would I be towards them if I didn't have this distortion, friction, anger, well, actually, you know what? I would be a much more compassionate person because all of a sudden I might hear what they're saying and say like, oh, there's things in what they're saying that make sense. It's just that I was not willing to hear what they're saying because of all the nonsense they were talking about other stuff. But now I can hear that and I say, okay, well, this makes sense. And then there won't be as much conflict. There won't be as much problems. You'll have an easier time communicating with other people. Other people would have an easier time communicating with you. And it's not about changing their view or being right or being wrong. It's about being frictionless. Because when you are without friction, you are non-centric. And then life just flows along. And it's really enjoyable. All the struggle disappears. You are liberated. You're no longer controlled by the idea that I am so important. I have to get there. Makes sense. Thank you, Vim. JVB, video recommendation. Upload a separate video on how to feel. Process your feeling. It'll be very helpful. There is nothing you need to feel. Like, this is also one of those things. I'm not trying to get people to feel a specific thing. If anything, I'm trying to let people go of the idea that they need to feel these highs and lows, and instead feel flow, relaxation, ease, peace. I'm not going to say harmony, but stillness, silence. Like, it's not really a feeling because it's not a distortion. It's more a way of... this is just really difficult to explain unless you feel it. Change yourself, not others. You're still talking from the paradigm of things needing to change. Again, this is why I have so much resistance towards this, and I need to work with this. So it's not about changing yourself, Stephen. It's not about changing the others. This is the idea that most people think, okay, I need to change myself because... No, it's not about that. We're trying to change your distortion, the friction you have towards other people. And when you do, whatever is there in you, that's what's there. But I can tell you that it won't be violent. It won't be greedy. It won't be, I am the most amazing, coolest person in the world and everyone should worship me, because that requires a sense of self. So it's not about changing you, and it's not about changing them. It's changing the relationship between you and them. That's the thing we're trying to change. And by doing that, who you are will come forward. It's not about what you do or how you interact with them. It's not even about being kind to the other person, which is why I don't want to say kindness, because it's not how you treat other people. It's how you feel towards other people. And when you can let go of that distortion, that distance between you and other people, you will no longer feel like you need to defend yourself towards them. You also don't feel like you need to protect them. You can be honest. But when you tell someone something honestly, it's not with, oh my goodness, look at how, like, what do you have on? Like, what are you wearing? It would be curiosity, like, oh, that's an interesting outfit. Where does that come from? How like, that's a cool style. Like, you could see things differently. You wouldn't be so afraid of hurting people's feelings, but you also wouldn't need to worry about having your own feelings hurt. Change yourself. Now, change is the only constant. Yeah, movement, same as change. Movement is like, everything is constantly moving and changing, but us trying to hold on, that's basically what we're doing when we're having this friction. It's like, oh, I don't want things to be just the way it is. Yeah, if I would go with the thing you're saying, Wim, it would be just flowing, just being, just existing. Like, you don't need to change the world, and then do whatever change you want to do, but you don't need to do it to feel good about yourself. Don't look at others' distortions, but just yours. Yes, what other people distort is up to them. That has nothing to do with you. How they distort, that's their thing. That doesn't mean you cannot be sensitive towards other people's feelings. Meaning that if someone just went through something difficult, then just, like, it makes sense to not go in. And this is the thing, when you do it, like, those questions they just take care of themselves. Because when you're in a situation and someone is feeling bad and you're feeling good, there is no part of you that goes in and go like, woohoo, let's go out and party, because you can see and fully understand the other person and see, like, oh, they're going through something that's difficult for them. And you can see, like, even though you don't have that, you can see that person's having that. And there's a sense of compassion towards that. Like, I know what that's like. I know how difficult it is when we're stuck in this situation. And we believe all these things, and it's very difficult because this person left you and now you feel like you're going to be alone the rest of your life, or like you're not worthy of love. Or like, I remember when I was younger and went through those things, that was really tough. I believed like I was not worthy of love. There was a point in my life where I would have taken any girl who came up to me, because I felt like I just don't deserve love. Like, I don't deserve anyone because I'm not good enough, I'm not cool enough, or whatever it was I thought, good looking enough. I always had that when I was younger. And if I would have seen myself now, then I wouldn't go like, oh my goodness, you're so dumb. Jesus Christ, like, look at you, like, you're good looking, like, you're a nice person, like, don't worry about it, just go out and talk to girls, like, they're not dangerous. But back then, that was how I felt. And if I could see myself now, I would have understanding for that. I could actually see the situation like, oh yes, I know that's difficult. But I wouldn't need to go in there and say like, oh, I'm so much better than you. I've overcome that. Oh, you poor little boy. The Indian guru kind of thing, like, oh, poor. Oh, you ignorant people, you don't understand it. Like that's a very strong sense of self, looking down on other people. Others reflect your own. What do you mean by that, Pim? JVB, but I thought you had to go through the rough path of your feelings to then feel a sense of flow, especially during meditation. That's what we're trying to do. By seeing, first of all, so say like you have a situation with, okay, when you say going through, I need to clarify this. Very good you asked that question, JVB. It's not about feeling bad. You do not need to feel bad. There's no reason for you to feel bad. You don't have to do that. The problem is, most of us cannot let go of that bad feeling unless we feel it long enough and say like, oh, this sucks. By seeing, oh, I'm feeling fear about, let's take that, like I feel unworthy to feel love. Because of that, women are, like girls are so much better than me and so much more worth than me. I don't dare to approach them, was what I felt when I was younger. I'm not worthy of love. I can see that. Is this me? Is this who I am? Or is this just a distortion? No matter what I answer, the next question would be, oh, poopers, now I forgot it myself. Again, I'm trying to learn because I don't question it quite like this. Okay, is this just friction or is it me? And why am I afraid of it? If it's just friction, why does it scare me? Because it's just a feeling in my body. That doesn't mean it's just going to go away, but it will make you question the validity of this being so solid, so real, so absolute. If it's me, then why are you afraid of it? It's just a feeling inside of you. Then the next question is, how does this change how I interact with other people around me? Girls, in this, I'm talking about myself being a teenager. How does this, and also in my 20s, how does this change how I talk to girls around me? Well, I don't talk to them like human beings because they're not human beings. They're just like these grand things that I'm so afraid of that can hurt me. And I had a lot of friends who were girls, but that was different kind of for some reason. But there was this feeling that this is different. So seeing like, how is this distortion changing the way I interact with the world around me? And then seeing, how would I be different with girls if I didn't have this distortion? Because there's a fear there, like why am I doing this? And how would that change my interaction? Because I might be a fear like, well, I might get rejected. Oh, people might think I'm like doing something wrong by telling people, oh, you look beautiful today. Like now I do that very often. If I see someone who looks beautiful, I'm like, oh, you look beautiful today. And I don't say it in such a way that there can be any misunderstanding that I want something from them. Because I'm just saying it as a comment, like, oh, that's a beautiful dress you have on today. Or, oh, nice you cut your hair. And I always notice those things. So we're doing these things and these questions to make it easier to see this is a silly thing to do. You could do it just by feeling bad. Like that's basically what I did when I was meditating. I would just sit with it. And then eventually I sat in it like, oh, this really sucks. And then it would just kind of disappear by itself. This is a way that makes it a little bit easier. And it's kind of what I've been doing with many people when I do coaching. Even though I haven't had it this structured, I've been leading them through this process without calling it this process or without having it this structured. I just kind of intuitively ask people how they feel about it, what they distorted about it, and then making them see, hey, can you see how this is affecting your way of interacting with this person or this situation? And if you didn't have this distortion at all, like how would you make this choice with the description of your company if you didn't feel this friction? Sometimes that's enough to make people go like, oh, well, if I didn't feel fear about it, I would just say this. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's actually really good. Because when you take away the friction, then you will come to the forefront, and you always know better than me what's good for you. Like I never tell people do this, but I want to help you be able to tell yourself what to do. And when you don't have the fear and the worry or the greed and the anger and the need to be justified or whatever it is you feel, then you make the best choices for you. Not me, not anyone else, you. And I'm trying to give you the choice to make the choice yourself. Stephen, yes, I agree. Hypocrisy is a dangerous distortion. Absolutely. Mats, it sounds a bit like lowering or straight up eliminating the stakes. Yes, that's what I'm trying to do, because we feel like it's so important life happens in this way. Again, if I take the thing with me as a teenager and girls, if I would have looked at it like this, obviously back then I was so controlled my emotions and oh my goodness. And I thought that was the right thing to do. I loved the drama and when I would fall in love, I'd go like, I'd be the most in love anyone's ever been in the world. And then I go crashing down. I'd be so sad and so terrible. I have these roller coasters and my goodness, it messed with my life. But if I would have been able to see this and actually question this, and also there's no point, like I would not have been ready for it because I had to go through that and see, you know what, this is not going to make you happy. But I needed to see that. So in a way, that's very observant, Mats, because it is in many ways lowering the stakes. You take away the idea that this is so solid, because many people feel anxiety and they're like, this is absolute, I'm going to feel like this the rest of my life. And the thought, this is the problem, they focus on this. I'm trying to get you away from the thought, away from the ideas, and just focus on what you're feeling. Because ultimately what I teach is, you have personal development, that's the world around you. That would be the one trying to say, hey, go get the girl by saying this thing or doing that thing or peacocking or negging. Like there's all these things you can do to make someone attracted to you. That would be personal development. And then you have spirituality, which basically says, change how you think about things. So instead think like, no, I am worthy of love. I am a good person. I am lovable. You're trying to change how you think to change your perspective. I'm trying to focus on the thing that both of those things ultimately deal with, which is your feelings, your emotions. That's why your thoughts are important. That's the only importance they have, is because they can change how you feel. But they don't have an absolute relationship to how you feel. You can change that. People are perfectly fine with changing their thoughts into positive thinking, but they're very afraid of doing positive feeling. Or what did I call it? I called, instead of visualization, we said feel-uization. I have to come up with a new word. In other words, one of the ways that I work a lot with myself is that if I feel fear or worry about something, I have worry about what's going to happen with my job and how we're going to solve our finances. What I do is I look at that feeling and I say, what would it feel like if I had no worry, about the job, what's going to turn out? And I try to find the feeling of not worrying about getting my work to work out, like my economical situation to work out. And that doesn't mean I just go like, wow, awesome, I have no problems. Spend. New camera, new MacBook. Oh my goodness, I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to take out. No, it just means that you take away the fear and the worry. And now I don't make choices. Because if I would make choices just on fear, I would say, well, I'm going to stay where I am, even though I hate it there. I don't hate it there, but I would stay in a situation that's not good instead of trying to find something that works better for me. Because then when you take away the fear, I could be me. Blaming others for having distortion is a distortion itself. Absolutely. Bang on target, Stephen. That's absolutely. And when you start seeing this, you get less angry with people because you know that they're just doing exactly what you've been doing. They're reacting towards the distortions they have, and they believe they need to treat you poorly because they need to defend this. They have this thing here that is me, and it's so important, and I need to defend it. I need to defend my points, my opinions. You have to be like this. You shouldn't do like this. And I've had a lot of this. I think this is why I'm so good at seeing it, because I had more than most people. So letting go of that really means letting go of the sense of self. And this process is a way to make that more tangible. And it is, like I said, I'm not finished with this. I don't have the wording down completely, but this is in many ways what I do when I do coaching. I help people see the distortion, help them feel it, help them see that, hey, you are in that feeling. The sense of you is in that. And then after that, I would take them to see, what would it be like how does that affect, and I don't do it like this directly. I do it by talking around it. And then ultimately bringing them into, well, what would you do if you didn't have this friction? If you didn't have this worry, what kind of choices would you make then? Would you stay in this situation, or would you leave this situation? If you didn't have the fear of being alone, or like the fear of being without money, like what would you do then? That doesn't mean you have to do that. It just means we let go of the distortion, and then you say, oh, you know what? I have to stay at my current job because currently I have no way of doing something else. And if I don't do, the consequences would be we would lose our home. So I'm not willing to do that. Okay, I stay. But now all of a sudden I've opened up, and I'm not there because I'm forced by my feelings. I'm choosing to be there. And now I can also choose, you know what? This is not a situation I want to be in. How can I work towards something else? And no guilt, no fear, no worry. Like it's a way of really being you. I'll ponder this, but I don't think that you're saying to completely ignore your feelings. Absolutely not. You should feel your feelings, because ignoring your feelings and not uncovering the roots of them could lead to even more feelings. No, you don't need to uncover the roots to your feelings. You absolutely do not. It's enough to let go of the feelings. And I don't mean, this is why, again, thinking is a problem, because people feel, I feel anxious about talking to this girl, right? That was I feel anxiety about talking to them. If I would do positive thinking, I would think like, no, actually, I am loved. I don't need to worry about this because I am worthy. I have never looked at the insecurity. I've never felt my anxiety. I have never looked at me so that I can truly let go of the problem, which is not why this is there, because when I was a teenager, when I was younger, my mother didn't love me enough. I mean, I'm just making up a story. That's not important. What's important is that you are that feeling. You are creating that feeling. And so you don't need to find the reason behind it, why it came there. That's like psychotherapy. You don't need that. Like, people can do psychotherapy and they sit down and they discuss, are you feeling this because your father did this when you were younger? Now you're having this behavior. That would be psychotherapy, figuring out why you have that feeling. You can also do prenatal birth therapy. Prenatal birth therapy is something I say jokingly, but it's a serious therapy form, and I believe it works. They go in and they talk to you and they say, oh, you know what? The reason you feel alone and worried about being alone because you had a twin when you were in your mother's stomach. And then that twin died. So you feel worry about that because you're now alone and you were used to being two. And now you killed that because you took the resources, which gives you guilt. And you can make up all these stories. Or it was the birth when you came out. That was the trauma. If you accept that and you believe, oh yes, I understand now the reason I feel that I'm not worthy of love is because I killed my brother or my sister in my mother's womb. And I feel like I can never be loved. That's why it is. Now you have the reason, you allow yourself to let go of that distortion. So the reason is just, you can make up whatever reason you want. And all different therapy forms have a different way of coming up with the reason that will be good enough for you to allow yourself to let go of that distortion. And you don't need that. You can do without that. It's actually much more direct and permanent if you're able to look at the feeling itself. And I'm not saying push it away. Oh, I don't want to feel this feeling. So you push it down and those deep and like, yeah, it's down there. I'm not feeling this now. Oh, I can go up to that girl and talk to her because I'm pushing it down. That's not what we're talking. I'm talking about feeling every single nuance of how that feels. But with the knowledge, it's just a sensation in your body. The sense of you is coming from this sensation. And then by asking yourself, like Mats was saying, lowering the stakes. Oh, I should write this stuff down. Lowering the stakes. That should be like a video title. Because you lower the stakes when you ask yourself, how is this affecting how I'm interacting with this person? Oh, you know what? It's causing me a lot of grief and it's making me not honest and open to that girl. Maybe imagine if I would have been open to that girl, I could have given her this awesome person who's me, but I didn't because I was so afraid of showing myself. I could have been I was always a nice, kind guy. I was never like a mean person in relationships. I don't think, at least. But I denied her that because I was so afraid of being myself. So I'm actually hurting her by not being me. And then seeing how would I behave if I didn't have this distortion, this feeling of unworthiness. Just by doing that, you're shifting it and you're lowering the stakes. Mats, could you send that to me in a private Discord, or just send it in the Discord chat because I'm going to forget it otherwise? Because I like how that's kind of like part of the theme. What we're doing with these questions is we're lowering the stakes. It's not just going to make the distortion go away, but it will lower the stakes enough so that when you look at that feeling, it will be easier for you to see, hey, wait a minute, this is a silly thing to do. It hurts. Why am I doing it? And letting go of it. But before, you had all this identity. Who would I be? Like, oh, I don't want to push down my thoughts. I don't want to do this. And you have all this worry. And you kind of need to do this a few times. And it will just make a lot of sense. And it's just very easy to do. So this was, for me, a lot of fun. And I would be super happy if you again shared how you felt about that and how you saw it. And if it makes sense, feel free to write in the Discord chat if you have any thoughts about it. Thank you, Mats. Because it really is, like I said, the reason I did this is not because I said business coach, but that might give the wrong idea. the reason I did that was because I wanted to find out, what do I need to change to actually have something that can... And this ultimately leads to helping more people, because what do I want to do? I want to help people be happy. That's the main thing I want to do, is I want people to enjoy their lives, and I want them to see that life is good. It is nice to be alive. I don't want people to go around with anxiety, fear, worry, all these things that make life so difficult, because I've done that for such a big part of my life, and it absolutely sucked. And it still sucks, because I'm still having to look at some of these things. But being able to change how you relate to the world is the greatest gift anyone can ever give you. And when you see how easy life is when you let go of that, or how much easier many of the things you have problems with is, when you're able to see the world like this and relate to the world like that, that is truly amazing, and is something that I want to share with others. So more important than all of the other stuff is, I want to help people do that. The problem is, how do I do that? Because everything I say, people will try to put it into either the fear of personal development, or the fear of the sphere of spirituality, when they say like, oh, it's like this, or like you reflected on others. Like, there's all these things, like sayings that we're so used to just accepting, like, oh, this is just truth. We're all one. Everyone is everything. How do you know that? How is that true? Like, where did you get that from? Is that really true? Like, for me, that's like, that idea is just, it doesn't matter. Like, you cannot know that we're all one, that we're all connected. Like, yeah, it feels like that, but how do you know that's true? Why do you put so much energy and time into defending or not defending, or believing or not? It's completely irrelevant to how you relate to the world. It's just create a new way of relating to things. So instead of getting all these new ideas, instead of, okay, before I needed to do these things, no, now I need to feel a unity with everything, otherwise I'm not good enough, and then it should be like this, and you have these new ideas of how things work. Just let go of everything. Because if you really want to feel liberation, just this ease of being, then you can't have beliefs like that either. Because feeling one with everything is that there is someone feeling an identity. I feel like I have everything. There is a feeling of a self there. Even though that self doesn't need to really protect itself from anything, there's still the feeling that someone is there. This would be the God consciousness, or the God unity. And there is something beyond that. And I do struggle with sharing that, because it's just, I just do it intuitively because of, everything, the story behind that. And I'm trying to share that. And I'm trying to come up with ways that will make them more effective. And I'm hoping that this will be one of those things that can help people do that for themselves. And then if they get the money, if they get the girl, if they get the job, like, so what? Like, it's nice to have a good partner who is kind to you, who is loving, who you find attractive, you have good sex with, who you have good interaction with, who you can have nice conversations with, and do things you like. There's nothing wrong with that. It is nice to have a good job where you earn lots of money, so you don't have to worry about having money for food, or being able to have a house, or helping the people around you. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, I've been having too much resistance to the idea that people would then take this as the main thing. But maybe I have to let people do that, but let them get that in a way that goes away from law of attraction, that goes away from spirituality, that goes away from personal development, and shows that actually it's much easier than that. Yeah. JV, I see. You sort of give yourself permission to approach the world or a situation without distortion. Thank you. Just everyone say what, not say. That's the thing. It's not about saying. It's what you said there, that's exactly what it is. It's giving yourself permission to approach the world or a situation without distortion. But we don't allow ourselves to do that, because imagine if I went up to this person without this fear. This fear is here to protect me. I'm feeling anxious because I'm worried I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to get rejected, and that might be bad. I'll be cast out from the tribe. In other words, you're defending something. It's being completely naked, vulnerable, open, and saying what you believe, and then hearing like, oh, you know what? I was wrong. And you can see that I was wrong, and you don't need to defend that belief anymore. It's just something you say, and other people point out, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. You go like, oh crap, I've been thinking this my entire life. It doesn't make any sense. I just said that because I had a distortion from my father, who said that, you know what? Nikon is the best camera in the world. Canon sucks. My father was like this. He really liked brands. Nikon is the only camera you can use, because Canon, oh my god, they suck. My friend, his friend had a friend who had Canon. It's like, oh, their lenses are so terrible, and and I believed, yeah, Nikon is the best, Canon sucks. And then when I became really into photography and I photographed for a few years, I kind of said, well, you know what? I realized that people who were really good photographers, it didn't matter if they had a Canon or a Nikon or a freaking cell phone. They took better photos than I did because they had skill. They had knowledge of how to compose a good image. In other words, I was able to get rid of the distortion my father had, that Nikon is the only brand of camera you can have. If you have a Nikon camera, you take good camera photos. If you have a Canon, not so good. So it's being naked, open, and being able to see your own flaws in your reasoning. Not just because you were brought up that way. This is liberation. This is being liberated from the conditioning, from the fear, from the anxiety, from what everyone tells you should believe, and just believe what you believe. Not me telling you this is the right thing to do. There are certain things that happen when you do this that just seem to be kind of universal, because since you no longer need to defend yourself, you no longer need to protect this identity, there tends to be very little conflict, because you don't need to get angry. It would be impossible to get angry. There's no need to be greedy, because why do you need all those things? The need for greed kind of disappears. That doesn't mean you couldn't have a lot of things. It just means that you no longer believe that you need to have those to be happy. Could do it without the Sangha, the chat and you. Could not do it. Yes. Sangha, or a group of people to do it with, is very important. Okay, I've been carrying on way too long, and we're supposed to meditate also. Thank you so much for listening. And like I said, I would be super happy if someone has some thoughts or ideas about this. If you send me a private message, or if you just write something in the Discord chat, that would be really nice, because I am doing this because I am questioning my own beliefs about what I should or shouldn't do, and I'm trying to find things that work for you. So yeah. Today's Thursday, no guided meditation. We have breath work, and what we'll do today is the Kapalabhati is the breath where you use your diaphragm to push out air very quickly, and we do 40 of those. If you feel nauseous or like you feel dizzy, just stop it. It's not important that you do this specifically. We do it because it raises like the vibration, and you get a lot of energy from doing this, and you feel very clear-headed. So it's easier to sit after you've done this. If you want to do a practice round, just put your hand on your belly and then push out the air through your belly, go, and you let the air you push it out, and then you just relax, and the diaphragm by the belly relaxing will automatically pull the air back. Please upload separate videos on specific topics. I promise you it'll help your viewers. Yeah, I actually have 3 videos I recorded that will be released very soon. I'm just finishing up the editing. And I have quite a few more that I want to do. It's just now that school started, now that work started again, it's just not as much time to do things. So we do 40 of these to begin with, or 30 or 20 or 10, however many you feel comfortable, or none. And then we sit for 20 minutes after that. So. So I will do it together with you for the 40 times, and then as soon as you're done, just keep on sitting. Thank you as always for a nice sitting, and thank you for the discussion before. I enjoy that. It's nice to share and kind of structure my thoughts. I will try to see if I have some time tomorrow, and I'll work with getting a bit more structured on what I write there, and I'll share it on the Discord chat. And if anyone wants to, I'd be very happy if you tried it out and tell me how it works for you. Thank you. Sleep well every night, and I will see you back on Monday again. Happy weekend.